Ever since I awakened to the truth that I was nothing more than the cannon fodder real heiress in a fake heiress story, my entire family began hearing my inner thoughts. When I silently criticized my father's trusted assistant, father immediately fired him. When I secretly mocked mother's best friend, mother cut ties with her without hesitation. When I worried about my older brother's health, he rushed to the hospital for a full-body examination. The family who once adored only the fake heiress suddenly began competing to treat me well. Meanwhile, Li Jiaqin, the fake daughter they had cherished for 18 years, could not understand why everyone was slowly beginning to dislike her, despite the fact that she had changed nothing at all. "Sister, do you like it? Then you can have it." Li Jiaqin stood before me with reddened eyes and a gentle smile painted across her beautiful face. In both hands, she carefully held out a diamond-studded watch toward me. "Everything in this house should have belonged to you anyway. As long as Mom and Dad let me stay here, I'm already grateful. If there's anything you want, I'll gladly give it to you." Watching her pitiful performance, I nearly rolled my eyes. If I hadn't awakened to the truth, I probably would have fallen into her trap again. Only after awakening did I realize that I was the real heiress, destined to suffer in this story, while Li Jiaqin, the fake daughter, was the beloved heroine. We had been switched at birth. She grew up wrapped in luxury inside the Li family mansion, while I was abandoned in a remote countryside village, surviving like a stray dog. Not long ago, the Li family finally found me and brought me home. At the time, my skin was dark from years under the sun, my hair dry and yellowed, and my hands rough and cracked like an old woman's. Father Li openly disliked me. He said I had poor manners, terrible posture, and embarrassing grades. Compared to me, Li Jiaqin was elegant, beautiful, multilingual, musically talented, and academically outstanding. Placed side by side, any parent would instinctively prefer her. Even the name they gave me after bringing me home felt careless: Li Jiadai. At that moment, the diamond watch Li Jiaqin was offering me was a limited edition gift Mother had rewarded her with after she placed third in a mock exam. I had scored poorly, so naturally, I received nothing. I had merely glanced at the watch a few times before Li Jiaqin smiled sweetly and asked if I liked it. I casually replied that it looked nice. The next day, she insisted on gifting it to me. But this was all part of her scheme. According to the original storyline, I would happily accept the watch. Then, the strap, already secretly damaged by Li Jiaqin beforehand, would suddenly snap apart in my hands. She would burst into tears, accusing me of intentionally destroying the treasure Mother had painstakingly ordered for her. With only a few carefully chosen words, she would once again deepen Mother's hatred toward me. And just like before, Mother would fear I might hurt Li Jiaqin and banish me to the servants' building behind the mansion. "Jiaqin is giving it to you because she cares," Mother Li said coldly. "It's her reward. If Jiaji likes it, I'll buy her another one later." In this family, rewards and punishments are always fair. Li Jiaqin lowered her eyes modestly. "As long as sister is happy, I don't need rewards." Then she stepped closer, forcing the watch toward my hands. I immediately backed away. "I don't want it. Keep it yourself." Inside, I sneered. What gift? The strap was already broken. She had only temporarily pieced it together. The moment I touched it, it would shatter, and she'd frame me for destroying it out of jealousy. If I touched that watch, even 100 mouths wouldn't be enough to explain myself. Ever since I returned to the Li family, Li Jiaqin had constantly set traps for me, hoping everyone would hate me enough to throw me out. At first, I tried explaining myself, but every time she cried, the entire family sided with her without question. Eventually, I stopped bothering. No matter what I said, Mother would never believe me anyway. I no longer fought for their love or affection. I only wanted to stay as far away from the female lead as possible, save enough money, and leave this house once I turned 18. After all, That day wasn't far away. Seeing me refuse the bait, Li Jiaqin froze for a split second. She had grown used to me being naive and easy to manipulate. Just as she was about to say something else, Mother suddenly snatched the watch from her hands. Before Li Jiaqin could react, Mother rubbed the strap lightly between her fingers. Crack! The watch shattered instantly into several pieces. 2 fragments even fell onto the floor. The damage was obviously intentional. Mother Li went still. So did I. This wasn't supposed to happen. The storyline had changed. Could it be Mother had awakened too? Li Jiaqin's face turned pale. The watch had been crafted from incredibly durable material. There was no way it should have fallen apart so easily. Still, she reacted quickly. "How could this happen?" she gasped. "It was perfectly fine yesterday." Then she suddenly turned toward me with widened eyes. "Jiadai, did you go into my room this morning? Was it you?" "That's enough." Mother Li's voice cut through the room like ice. Li Jiaqin stared at her in disbelief. This was the first time Mother had ever shouted at her. But what shocked her even more was what came next. Mother called the butler over and calmly ordered him to pack Li Jiaqin's belongings and move her into an empty room in the servants' building behind the mansion. Everyone froze. Even the butler looked stunned. Then Mother turned to me awkwardly. "Jiadai, move into Jiaqin's old room. I'll have everything inside replaced with things you like." Li Jiaqin's bedroom was next to the master bedroom. Luxurious, dreamlike. Even the bed alone probably cost more than an ordinary family's apartment. I stood there blankly. Could Mother really hear my thoughts now? Then she should already know. "Mom!" Li Jiaqin's desperate voice interrupted my thoughts. "What did I do wrong?" Mother sneered. "If you didn't like the gift I gave you, fine. But why destroy it? I treated you like my own daughter, yet your heart is so vicious. If you dislike me that much, then move to the servants' building. Stay out of my sight." The butler immediately obeyed. Li Jiaqin burst into tears. "It wasn't me. I would never destroy something you gave me." At that exact moment, my older brother Li Jiabang returned home. The moment Li Jiaqin saw him, she ran straight into his arms. "Brother, help me! Mom wants me to move out and give my room to sister." Li Jiabang adored her more than anyone. The moment he saw her crying, he hugged her protectively and immediately turned toward me with anger in his eyes. "Li Jiadai, if there's something you dislike, just say it. We can buy you anything you want. Why are you trying to steal Jiaqin's room?" Before I could even respond, Mother shouted furiously. "Shut up and stay out of this!" Li Jiaqin clung tighter to him, sobbing pitifully. I silently mocked the scene. What a devoted sister-complex idiot. I wondered if he would still see her as pure and innocent after his precious fake sister drugged him on her 18th birthday and ruined his entire life. After all, he was already seriously ill. He suffered from insomnia every night, heart palpitations during the day, and constant headaches. Yet he refused to see a doctor. And after being force-fed that powerful drug by Li Jiaqin in the future, he would become a drooling fool who lost his mind completely. Suddenly, clang! The remaining half of the broken watch slipped from Mother's hand and hit the floor. Li Jiabang's expression abruptly stiffened. Without hesitation, he pushed Li Jiaqin away from him. I blinked in surprise. Wait, could he hear my thoughts too? His face turned pale as he stared at me with a complicated expression. After a long silence, he muttered hoarsely, "I need to go out for a while." Then he hurried out the door. "Brother!" Li Jiaqin called after him desperately, but he never looked back. For the first time since I returned to this family, the story had truly begun to change. Li Jiaqin's expression twisted for a split second as she watched Li Jiabang leave without even glancing back at her. That single moment shattered the confidence she had carefully maintained for years. In the past,
No matter what happened, Li Jiabang would always stand on her side first. Even if she was wrong, he would instinctively protect her. But now, something was slipping beyond her control. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clutched the small bag in her hands tighter and tighter. In the end, she still refused to move into the servants' building. Instead, she packed only a few changes of clothes and declared that she would leave the Li family home entirely. Standing in the center of the living room, she bowed deeply toward Mother Li, shoulders trembling. "Thank you for raising me all these years," she whispered in a choked voice. "After I graduate, I'll work hard and repay your kindness." Mother Li frowned immediately. "You made a mistake, and I disciplined you. Why are you acting like a victim? Are you threatening to run away from home now?" Li Jiaqin shook her head frantically while crying harder. "No, I really want to leave. Sister Jiadai has suffered outside for so many years. Please love her properly from now on. Don't worry about me anymore." Her voice was soft and pitiful enough to break anyone's heart. Right then, the front door burst open. "Hong Ye! I bought fresh fruit from TD Supermarket. Hurry and come taste them." The woman who walked in energetically was Fang Lu, Mother Li's best friend. Mother Li's real name was Yu Hongye. She had always been a strong, cold woman with few close friends, and Fang Lu had been the only person who constantly flattered and accompanied her. Because of that, the two women had become inseparable over the years. The moment Fang Lu saw Li Jiaqin crying with luggage in hand, her expression changed dramatically. "Oh my goodness! What happened to our little princess?" Li Jiaqin lowered her head miserably. "Aunt Fang, I'm leaving." Fang Lu immediately rushed over in concern. "Leaving? Why?" "The watch Mom gave me broke somehow," Li Jiaqin sobbed softly. "I upset Mom and made Sister Jiadai feel wronged, too. I think it's better if I move out." Fang Lu laughed lightly as though it were nothing serious. "Oh, come on. Just apologize to your mother and it'll be fine. A beautiful girl like you running around outside alone? What if traffickers kidnap you? Wouldn't your parents and brother die from worry?" Then she turned toward Mother Li with a smile. "Right, Hongye? You can't possibly bear to let such a lovely daughter wander outside alone." I lowered my eyes quietly. Inside, I sneered. Lovely daughter? Of course, Li Jiaqin wouldn't end up wandering outside. Her biological mother was standing right here. The luxurious apartment Fang Lu had borrowed from Mother Li. The princess-style bedroom she had recently renovated. Weren't they all prepared for Li Jiaqin? The moment the thought crossed my mind, Mother Li's expression abruptly froze. She slowly turned to look at me. "What did you just say?" Her voice trembled slightly. I blinked in confusion. I didn't say anything. But inside, my thoughts continued coldly. If people could choose where they were born, I definitely wouldn't have chosen the Li family. Yu Hongye was truly blind. She had no idea Fang Lu had switched the babies all those years ago. While I fought stray dogs for scraps in the countryside, my biological mother spoiled someone else's daughter like a princess, and allowed Fang Lu's entire family to drain the Li family dry. Later, Li Jiaqin would help Fang Lu and her husband seize the Li family fortune entirely. And how would Fang Lu repay Yu Hongye for years of generosity? She would mock her, call her stupid, laugh at her blindness. When Father Li became gravely ill, Yu Hongye would beg Fang Lu for help, and Fang Lu would force her to kneel and lick her shoes. Even though both mother and daughter were monsters, even though Li Jiaqin had already known the truth about her identity years ago and stayed silent on purpose. There was no way Mother Li would believe me if I told her any of this directly. So, what was the point? I should just save money and leave quietly once I turned 18. After all, this place had never truly been my home. Nobody here had ever treated me like real family. At that moment, Fang Lu pushed Li Jiaqin gently toward Mother Li again.
Hong Ye, don't be angry anymore. Look at her. Beautiful, smart, elegant. There isn't another girl like her in the entire city. She's been raised by you for 18 years. How can you bear to throw her out? Li Jiaqin lifted her tear-filled eyes pitifully. Mom! But before she could continue, Mother Li interrupted her coldly. If you want to leave, then leave. The room fell silent. Even Fang Lu looked stunned. Without another word, Mother Li walked aside and made a phone call. Then she returned, grabbed my hand gently and said, "Come with me. We're going to the hospital to see your brother." I stared at her in shock. This was the first time she had ever held my hand, the first time she had referred to herself as Mom in front of me. Her fingers felt strangely warm. I was still dazed when she led me outside. Mother Li drove personally while I sat awkwardly in the passenger seat. Before starting the car, she even leaned over and carefully fastened my seatbelt for me. The gentleness in her movements felt unreal. As the car exited the garage, Fang Lu suddenly dragged Li Jiaqin in front of the vehicle. "Hong Ye!" Fang Lu shouted nervously. "Jiabang is in the hospital? What happened? Jiaqin is worried too. Let us come along." Mother Li locked the car doors immediately. Her expression turned ice cold. "There's no need." Then she looked directly at Li Jiaqin. "He's not your real brother anyway. You don't need to care about him." Li Jiaqin's face went deathly pale. Before either of them could react further, Mother stepped on the accelerator. The car sped away. In the rearview mirror, I could see Li Jiaqin breaking down completely on the roadside, crying harder than ever before. The ride to the hospital was unbearably quiet. Rain clouds gathered outside the car window, casting heavy shadows across the city streets. Inside the vehicle, only the soft hum of the engine filled the silence. Mother Li gripped the steering wheel tightly. Several times it looked as though she wanted to say something to me, but every time she stopped herself. Meanwhile, I sat stiffly in the passenger seat, completely unable to adjust to this sudden warmth from her. For 18 years, I had never known what it felt like to be protected by a mother. And now, everything felt unreal. When we arrived at the hospital, Li Jiabang had already completed his examination. The doctor stood beside him with visible relief. "Fortunately, the tumor was discovered early," the doctor explained. "It hasn't become malignant yet. Surgery should fully resolve the issue." Mother Li nearly lost her balance hearing those words. Her eyes reddened instantly. If they had found it any later. I quietly lowered my gaze. Just like in the original storyline. By the time Li Jiabang discovered the tumor there, it had already become cancerous. Then came the drugs Li Jiaqin secretly fed him. His body collapsed completely after that. Eventually, the once brilliant heir of the Li family became a drooling fool, abandoned in a psychiatric hospital. Thinking about it now still made my chest tighten slightly. At that moment, hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway. Li Jiaqin and Fang Lu had arrived. "Brother!" Li Jiaqin rushed toward Li Jiabang with swollen red eyes filled with tears. "You scared me to death." In her hands was an exquisitely wrapped drink carrier. Carefully, she pulled out a warm cup and handed it to him lovingly. "This is hibiscus milk tea from Herji, the one you like most. It's still hot. Drink some, okay? You'll recover faster." The moment I heard the words, hibiscus milk tea, my eyes instantly locked onto the cup. That was it. In the original story, the drug Li Jiaqin used on Li Jiabang had been mixed into this exact drink. No wonder he never noticed anything strange. It was his favorite. I almost laughed inwardly. Li Jiaqin truly knew how to attack people where they were weakest. No wonder Li Jiabang had treasured her for so many years. Too bad. That affection didn't last forever. After Li Jiabang became mentally disabled in the original timeline, Li Jiaqin was the one who abandoned him most ruthlessly. She had him locked away in the worst psychiatric institution she could find. when he desperately called her for help, crying and begging through the phone. She found him annoying. In the end, she even instructed the nurses to handle him properly. They electrocuted him until he died. Smash! The cup suddenly crashed onto the floor. Milk tea splattered everywhere. I blinked in surprise. Li Jiabang had slapped the drink away. Not only did he refuse it, he looked terrified. He leaned backward on the hospital bed so abruptly that if the wall hadn't stopped him, he probably would have fallen off entirely. Li Jiaqin froze. Brother? Her voice trembled. Why are you looking at me like that? Am I some kind of monster? Li Jiabang's face was pale as paper. In a cold voice, he replied, You're more frightening than a monster. The entire room went silent. Even Fang Lu looked stunned. Li Jiaqin's tears flowed harder instantly. Brother, what did I do wrong? But Li Jiabang avoided her gaze entirely. Leave. I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me. Li Jiaqin turned desperately toward Mother Li again, hoping for support. But Mother Li merely looked away coldly. You should go. Li Jiaqin's lips trembled violently. For the first time in her life, every single person she relied on was rejecting her. Finally, Fang Lu pulled her away reluctantly. As they passed by me, Li Jiaqin suddenly stopped. Her previously pitiful face twisted into icy hatred. Brother needs rest, she snapped sharply. Why are you still shamelessly lingering here? Get out! Before I could respond, Li Jiabang suddenly spoke. Jia, his voice was hoarse. Stay. Li Jiaqin's expression cracked instantly. I almost burst out laughing. So instead, I deliberately smiled sweetly at her. Sorry, I said softly. Brother told me to stay. Her face turned green with rage. After they finally left, silence returned to the hospital room. Li Jiabang sat quietly for a long moment before awkwardly reaching for a carton of milk from the bedside table. He opened one and handed it toward me. Do you want this? I stared at him, then immediately refused. No thanks. His hand stiffened awkwardly in mid-air. I looked away calmly. Why pretend? I said flatly. You hate me, don't you? Mother Li's fingers trembled slightly. Li Jiabang froze completely. I continued quietly. You've always hated me. Mom does too. So there's no need to suddenly act like loving family members in front of each other. My existence already annoys all of you enough. The room became deathly silent. Li Jiabang lowered his head slowly. For some reason, his eyes had turned red. Even Mother Li looked like she was struggling not to cry. Suddenly, she grabbed my hand tightly. I'm sorry. Her voice broke completely. Jia, since you came home, Mom never treated you properly. Li Jiabang's voice followed hoarsely a moment later. I'm sorry, too. He looked at me carefully, almost nervously. I don't know what you like to eat. Tell me later, okay? I'll buy everything for you. And Jia? His eyes reddened further. I never hated you. You're my real sister. He deliberately emphasized the words real sister, as though afraid I wouldn't believe him. Their sudden change in attitude was so dramatic that I genuinely suspected both of them had been possessed. Still, I simply forced a small smile. Right, we're family. But deep inside, I remained calm. It didn't matter anymore. I still planned to leave after turning 18. Once I saved enough money, I would move out quietly. I no longer believed in things like blood ties or family affection. Yet somehow. After hearing my thoughts, both Mother Li and Li Jiabang looked even more heartbroken than before. For the next several days, Li Jiaqin didn't return to the Li family mansion. Without her stirring trouble every hour, the atmosphere inside the house changed so dramatically that even the servants seemed more relaxed. And my treatment rose to an almost ridiculous level. The largest bedroom in the mansion became mine overnight. Every morning, the chefs prepared meals according to my preferences. The wardrobe that had once contained only a few plain outfits quickly filled with luxury clothes, handbags, shoes, and jewelry Mother Lee personally picked out for me. Even the car that drove me to school had a ceiling covered in artificial stars. It was absurd. I had lived 18 years scraping leftovers from dirty bowls. Yet now people acted as though they wanted to hand me the entire world. Mother Lee gave me a bank card. Then Li Jiabang gave me another one. "Pocket money," they both said casually. The first time I checked the balances, I nearly stopped breathing. There were millions inside. And both of them promised they would continue transferring money into my account every month. Before, when I first returned home, my allowance had been the same as Li Jiaqin's. But now, it felt like they were trying desperately to compensate for all 18 years at once. Still, despite everything, I never allowed myself to relax. Every extra cent I received was carefully saved away. Apart from essential expenses, I refused to spend unnecessarily. I still planned to leave eventually. After all, people's feelings could change at any moment. The only thing truly reliable was money in my own hands. When I first returned to the Lee family, my terrible grades had embarrassed everyone. Mother and father originally intended to hire professional tutors for me, but Li Jiaqin had eagerly volunteered to teach me herself instead. Back then, my parents were deeply touched by her kindness. During tutoring sessions, however, Li Jiaqin deliberately explained concepts using foreign terminology I couldn't understand. She constantly switched languages mid-sentence, making everything sound impossibly complicated. Naturally, my grades never improved. Then she would carry my test papers filled with red marks to show my parents with helpless smiles. "Jiadai really struggles academically." Her expression always looked sympathetic. But hidden underneath was mockery, as though she were silently branding me stupid. Eventually, even my parents gave up on finding tutors for me and simply told Li Jiaqin to pay more attention to my studies. Now things were different. Mother Lee personally hired several elite private professors for me. Every one of them was famous in the education world. The math problems that once sounded like heavenly scriptures to me suddenly became understandable after their patient explanations. For the first time in my life, studying no longer felt terrifying. Meanwhile, Mother Lee treated my education as though it were the most important matter in the world. Still, even while things improved, I remained cautious. I studied hard every day while quietly continuing my escape fund. 1 week later, Li Jiaqin finally returned. Father Li had personally brought her home. He had just returned from a business trip and apparently encountered her working at a restaurant near the airport. The moment they entered the mansion, Father Li's face was full of anger and heartache. Li Jiaqin looked miserable. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her face was pale and exhausted, and several fingers were covered with bandages. Father Li tightly held her wrist, as though afraid she would disappear. The moment they stepped into the living room, he exploded at Mother Lee. "You Hongye, have you lost your mind? She's still a high school student. How could you force her to live outside alone over such a small matter? She's been washing dishes at restaurants day and night while still attending school. If I hadn't found her today, would you have ruined her entire future?" Li Jiaqin immediately lowered her head pitifully beside him, tears silently falling. Anyone who saw her like this would probably feel sympathy. Anyone except Mother Lee. She narrowed her eyes coldly. What a coincidence. So many restaurants in the city, yet she just happened to work at the exact restaurant you visited after your business trip. Father Lee froze slightly. Meanwhile, I lowered my gaze quietly. Of course it wasn't a coincidence. Feng Lu and her husband had carefully arranged everything. After all, their precious biological daughter couldn't possibly suffer for real. The washing dishes act was simply another performance meant to manipulate Father Li emotionally. Looking at Li Jiaqin's dark circles, I almost wanted to laugh. She must have wasted several boxes of makeup creating them. And those bandages? Probably applied just for dramatic effect. As the thought crossed my mind, Mother Li suddenly picked up a pot of hot tea nearby and splashed it directly onto Li Jiaqin's face and hands. Ah! Li Jiaqin screamed instantly. Everyone froze. Warm tea dripped down her cheeks, washing away thick layers of makeup. The fake dark circles began melting visibly. At the same time, the soaked bandages peeled off her fingers one after another, revealing perfectly smooth, uninjured skin underneath. Silence swallowed the room whole. Even Father Li looked stunned. Mother Li sneered coldly. "Continue acting." Her voice was terrifyingly calm. "I really failed in raising you these past 18 years. Li Jiaqin's face turned deathly white. Father Li stared at her in disbelief. "So, you lied to me too?" His voice sounded exhausted. The tears, the injuries, the miserable appearance, all fake. Li Jiaqin's legs gave out instantly. She dropped to her knees with a loud thud. "I'm sorry," she cried desperately while grabbing Father Li's sleeve. "I was scared. Mom hates me now. I was afraid both of you truly wouldn't want me anymore. Dad loves me the most, right?" Inside, I silently mocked her. "Dad? Your biological parents already reclaimed you last year. You just hid it because you wanted to keep draining the Li family like an ATM. And Father Li's precious assistant, Feng Qiang, Li Jiaqin's biological father, was even worse. He embezzled company funds, gambled away millions, and abused his position to sleep with countless women beneath him in the company. Yet Father Li trusted him completely. No wonder the Li family eventually got destroyed in the original storyline. Just as I was thinking this, Father Li suddenly staggered backward. His face turned pale. Mother Li immediately rushed over. The family doctor was called in at once. After examining him, the doctor concluded it was caused by a sudden spike in blood pressure. Once Father Li stabilized slightly, he slowly lifted his eyes toward me. His gaze was extremely complicated. I frowned internally. What now? Was he suspecting me again? But Father Li's expression suddenly stiffened strangely. Clearly, he had heard my thoughts too. Father Li sat silently on the sofa for a very long time. The living room was so quiet that even the sound of breathing felt heavy. Li Jiaqin still knelt on the floor, trembling, tears falling non-stop. But for the first time, Father Li no longer rushed to comfort her. Instead, he kept staring at me. His eyes were filled with shock, guilt, and something else I couldn't quite understand. I lowered my gaze coldly. What was the point of looking at me like that now? In the original story, none of them had cared whether I lived or died. After a long silence, Father Li suddenly spoke in an unusually gentle voice. "Jiadai." I looked up instinctively. "School's off today, right?" He paused before continuing carefully. "Would you like to come to the company with me?" Before I could answer, Li Jiaqin abruptly stood up in panic. "Dad, I want to go too." Her voice carried obvious desperation. In wealthy families, everyone understood the unspoken meaning behind such invitations. If the head of the family personally brought a child into the company, it meant they intended to groom that person as a future successor. Li Jiaqin had waited years for this opportunity. She always believed she would officially enter the company after becoming an adult. Now that chance was suddenly appearing before her eyes. How could she stay calm? But Father Li didn't even look at her. "You don't need to come." The refusal was cold and direct. Li Jiaqin froze completely. Father Li turned back toward me. His expression softened again. "Jia Dai, just treat it as an internship. I'll pay you hourly wages too, okay?" The moment I heard the words hourly wages, my eyes lit up instantly. Money? Of course I'd go. "Okay, Dad." The word dad slipped out naturally. For a brief moment, Father Li's eyes reddened slightly. Meanwhile, Li Jiaqin's face twisted uncontrollably. "Why?" Her voice shook violently. "Why is everyone treating me like this now? Are you all trying to bee me to death?" Inside, I sneered quietly. "Die? Impossible. Your real parents are probably waiting outside the mansion gates right now." The instant that thought crossed my mind, Mother Li suddenly seemed to realize something. She picked up her phone immediately and dialed a number. When the call connected, her voice turned icy. "Fang Lu, come pick up your daughter." The room fell silent. Li Jiaqin's face lost all color. Half an hour later, Fang Lu arrived in a panic. The moment she saw Li Jiaqin's ruined makeup and exposed bandages, her expression stiffened for only a split second before she quickly forced a smile. "Hong Ye, President Li is home too? So, you already know?" She immediately started acting pitiful. "I just couldn't bear to let the child suffer outside alone, so I let her stay with me these past few days. She cried every day because she missed you both. I felt heartbroken, so I helped her come up with those silly little ideas. If you want to blame someone, blame me." Then she suddenly looked at me sharply, her eyes filled with resentment so intense it almost seemed physical. "Li Jiadai, all of this is your fault, isn't it? You deliberately drove a wedge between Jiaqin and her family because you wanted to chase her away." I nearly laughed out loud. "Are you insane? What does any of this have to do with me?" Fang Lu's voice instantly rose louder. "Look at your attitude. Is that how a junior talks to an elder? You country bumpkin. You think causing chaos in the Li family makes you important? Jiaqin is the true daughter this family carefully raised. She's elegant, talented, educated. What do you have compared to her? You're uneducated, crude, jealous, and constantly stirring trouble in this household." Slap. The sound exploded through the room. Everyone froze. Fang Lu slowly turned her head in disbelief. Mother Li's hand still hung in the air from the strike. Her entire body trembled with fury. "What are you?" Mother Li's voice was terrifyingly cold. "Who gave you the right to point fingers at my daughter? If you dare insult Yadai one more time, I'll slap you again. Get out." Fang Lu held her burning cheek, utterly stunned. "Hong Ye, you hit me?" "Yes." Mother Li's eyes were ice cold. "And if you don't leave immediately, I'll do worse." For the first time in years, Fang Lu finally realized something terrifying. Yu Hong Ye was no longer under her control. From that day onward, Father Li began personally taking me to the company whenever I had free time. The employees and executives treated me respectfully wherever I went. Father Li also paid me exactly as promised. The salary was absurdly high. Honestly, the work itself was easy. He mostly introduced me to senior shareholders and veteran executives in the company. At the same time, something even more shocking happened. Father Li suddenly launched a complete internal investigation into Fengqiang. The results were devastating. Embezzlement, illegal gambling, financial fraud, abuse of company funds, mistresses hidden across multiple cities. The evidence was overwhelming. Within days, Fengqiang was arrested. The entire company celebrated. Many employees nearly cried with relief after years of suffering under him. Watching everything unfold, I slowly realized something unbelievable. The storyline itself was being rewritten. One by one, every tragic fate inside the Li family was changing. Meanwhile, Mother Li completely cut Fang Lu off. She reclaimed the luxury apartment she had once lent her, the car, the memberships, the credit accounts. Even the expensive jewelry and luxury bags Fang Lu had borrowed over the years were all demanded back through lawyers. Fang Lu came crying to the mansion multiple times. Mother Li never softened once. As for Li Jiaqin, she began live streaming online. In front of millions of viewers, she cried miserably about being abandoned by her adoptive parents after 18 years. She claimed she had nowhere to go, that she worked miserable jobs washing dishes just to survive, that she no longer wanted to study. During one live stream, she even used a knife to cut her wrist on camera while sobbing hysterically. Almost overnight, public opinion exploded. The Li family was cursed everywhere online, cold-blooded, heartless, ungrateful, cruel. Yet despite the endless criticism, no one in the Li family explained anything. No interviews, no responses, no defense. They simply waited quietly until the day of my 18th birthday, and Li Jiaqin's 18th birthday too. That night, the Li family held a grand birthday banquet at Xingqi Hotel. Countless reporters were invited. The ballroom glittered with crystal lights and luxury decorations, and personally invited by Mother Li herself, Fang Lu and Li Jiaqin arrived proudly at the banquet. Li Jiaqin entered the ballroom wearing a stunning white gown, elegant and graceful like a true princess. Under the dazzling crystal chandeliers, countless cameras immediately turned toward her. After all, she was still the tragic, abandoned, adopted daughter beloved by the internet. Fang Lu followed beside her proudly, her chin lifted high. Clearly, both of them believed tonight's banquet was the Li family surrendering publicly. As long as the Li family acknowledged Li Jiaqin again in front of the media, public opinion would instantly swing back in her favor. Perhaps they even believed the Li family had finally realized they couldn't afford to lose her. The moment Li Jiaqin saw Father Li and Mother Li standing near the stage, she immediately smiled sweetly and walked over. "Mom, Dad," her voice was soft and emotional. "Thank you for organizing this birthday banquet for me, and for letting me come home. As long as we're still family, I'll explain everything to my fans. I'll tell them you never abandoned me, and that you'll continue loving me in the future." The smile on her face looked gentle and understanding, like she was generously giving the Li family a chance to redeem themselves. But neither Father Li nor Mother Li responded. Their expressions remained cold. Li Jiaqin's smile stiffened slightly. At that moment, reporters and guests had already completely filled the ballroom. The huge LED screen behind the stage suddenly lit up. Everyone turned instinctively toward it. The next second, a DNA test report appeared on the screen. The room exploded into chaos instantly. The report clearly proved the biological relationship between Feng Chang, Fang Lu, and Li Jiaqin. Li Jiaqin's face turned ghostly pale. Fang Lu froze completely. Before either of them could react, Li Jiabang slowly stepped onto the stage holding a microphone. His voice echoed steadily throughout the ballroom. Regarding the rumors online accusing the Li family of abandoning our adopted daughter, Li Jiaqin, tonight I will clarify everything publicly. The entire room fell silent. Li Jiabang's gaze swept across the crowd before continuing coldly. Yes, Li Jiaqin grew up in the Li family. But 18 years ago, her biological parents switched her with my real younger sister shortly after birth, while their daughter enjoyed luxury in our home. My biological sister was abandoned in a remote village and left to fend for herself. His voice gradually became hoarse. Below the stage, countless reporters gasped. The audience erupted instantly. They switched the babies? That's kidnapping. How could people do something so evil? A newborn child was abandoned in the countryside? This is monstrous. Li Jiabang's fingers tightened around the microphone. Then, the giant screen suddenly changed again. This time, Surveillance footage and photographs appeared one after another. Luxury hotels, expensive restaurants, shopping malls, vacation resorts. Every place Li Jiaqin had secretly visited recently while pretending online to suffer alone was displayed clearly before everyone. The audience instantly understood everything. The live streams, the tears, the dishwashing job, the suicide act. All fake. Everything had been staged deliberately. The internet reporters present immediately exploded into discussion. So she was pretending the whole time. She never suffered at all. She stayed with her biological mother the entire time. I even donated money to her live stream. She manipulated the public. Fang Lu's face turned white as paper. Li Jiaqin looked as though the entire world had collapsed around her. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. Another video suddenly began playing. This time, it showed Fang Lu secretly entering the maternity ward 18 years ago, then secretly switching the two babies. The ballroom instantly descended into outrage. "You monsters! How could you do that to a child? That little girl almost died. If that were my daughter, I'd kill them myself." Li Jiaqin staggered backward violently. No, that's impossible. Meanwhile, online live streams of the banquet were already exploding across the internet. Public opinion reversed almost instantly. The same people who once pitied Li Jiaqin now cursed her viciously. I can't believe I felt sorry for her. So the real victim was the true daughter all along. The Li family raised a wolf for 18 years. That poor real heiress survived alone in the countryside? Thank God she survived. Under countless flashing cameras, Fang Lu suddenly collapsed onto the floor. Meanwhile, Li Jiaqin looked desperately toward Father Li. "Dad." Her voice cracked completely, but Father Li's gaze toward her was colder than ice. "You're not my daughter." The sentence shattered her completely. Soon after, police officers entered the ballroom. Fang Lu and Feng Qiang were formally arrested for child abduction, fraud, and multiple financial crimes. As for Li Jiaqin, her online fame collapsed overnight. The school expelled her due to repeated absences and scandals. Everywhere she went, people recognized her immediately, pointed at her, insulted her, cursed her. The more adored she once was, the more violently the public hated her now. Several days later, she appeared outside the Li family mansion in the middle of a storm, kneeling, crying, refusing to leave. Rain drenched her completely as she banged desperately on the gates. "Brother, please let me stay. I can work. I can be a servant, a nanny, anything. I grew up here. This is my home too." Li Jiabang personally came outside to deal with her. Standing beneath the rain, he looked down at her expressionlessly. Li Jiaqin crawled forward and grabbed his leg tightly. "You raised me into a princess," she screamed hysterically. "Now you suddenly want me to suffer? How can I survive like this?" "It's your fault. You spoiled me. You have to take responsibility for me forever." Li Jiabang laughed from pure anger. "Our money didn't fall from the sky. Why should my family continue being drained by you? Your parents destroyed my sister's life. And you still have the nerve to demand we raise you forever?" His eyes turned colder and colder. "If you want someone to support you for life, go find your real parents in prison." Then he waved toward the security guards. "Throw her out." Li Jiaqin screamed wildly while guards dragged her away through the rain. "You stole everything from me. I won't let any of you live peacefully. I'll never forgive you." Her voice gradually disappeared into the storm. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, another birthday celebration had quietly begun. This time, it was truly mine. The living room had been decorated warmly and beautifully. Golden letters on the wall read, "Happy birthday, Jiadai." The custom cake was breathtaking.
Everyone had prepared gifts for me personally. Mother Lee's eyes filled with tears as she looked at me. "Jiadai," her voice trembled emotionally, "you saved this family. You saved all of us. I'm sorry, and thank you." I blinked slightly in surprise. Honestly, I didn't think I had done anything, so I simply smiled awkwardly. I didn't really do much, but hearing that only made Mother Lee cry harder. After the celebration ended, I quietly told everyone something I had planned for a long time. I want to move out after this. The room fell silent immediately. Yet strangely, no one looked surprised, as though they had already expected it. Father Lee lowered his head quietly before finally nodding. "As long as it's what my daughter wants, I'll support it." Mother Lee cried openly this time. Li Jiabang forced a smile despite his reddened eyes. "You can move out if you want, but no matter where you live, you'll always be our family. You'll always be my only little sister." Then he paused before adding softly, "Before you leave, there's someone we want you to meet first." The next second, a familiar figure slowly walked into the room from outside. The moment I saw her, my vision blurred instantly with tears. I rushed forward without hesitation. "Mother Yan! Mother Yan!"